Hello, welcome back to another Tiny Matter workshop. So this is Pei-Jung Li from Indiana University, Bloomington. In today's workshop, we are going to talk about research ethics in qualitative inquiry. And just a heads up, in today's workshop, we are not going to provide you with a single or a specific right answer towards some of the ethical moment. Well, instead, I encourage you to engage in this workshop as a way and a starting point to think about what research ethics means and what ethical practice means in your future research project. So let's get started. When this term, research ethics, first appears, what comes to your mind? Well, I believe probably some of you may be thinking about IRB, which is always the first step when you started to decide a research project that would involve human subjects. So under the FDA regulations, the IRB is defined as a group that has been formally decided to review and monitor biomedical research involving human subjects. Here, I want to put an emphasis on biomedical, this term, because some of the quantitative researchers, they have some discussion around the insufficiency of biomedical models in relates to social sciences, basically arguing that thinking about research ethics driven from this model is not enough for us to react to some of the ethical moments while we are working a qualitative social science projects. So I will later give some examples and then invite you to think about those moments. But in general, the IRB starts with some of the concerns with protecting the welfare, rights, and privacy of human subjects. So for those who you have been submitting your research project to IRB, or even you have never been but is about to do that, IRB helps to review your research protocol, basically regarding your research design or the procedure you are planning to take in terms of your research. And IRB also helps to review the research materials, including the interview questionnaires you are planning to use if you are thinking about doing an interview, or the recruitment materials, such as the email script that you intended to send to your potential participants. They want to know what are the languages that are there in your recruitment script, and they want to know whether or not these languages are appropriate. In general, they want to protect the participants. So this protection toward human subject has stemmed from some of the historical moments, such as the Nuremberg Code, which after World War II, this code was established to argue for the voluntary consent of the human subject, because during World War II, Germany had done some inappropriate, this is a lighter the experiment or treatment to human beings, and it was later discovered to be really brutal. So and doing those experience on human beings it was not voluntary, let's say. So this was probably the moment where the voluntary consent is being put in foreground and consider one of the most basic things for us to work with any human subjects. And Tuskegee syphilis study has happened in the United States, and it was basically a study where the subjects was being or was not told that they actually have chrysalis, and even though later the cure has been developed, they were still not being practiced the treatment. So that is said, there are deceit involved in the process, and of course more ethical considerations here. So later on, the Declaration of Helsinki and also the Belmont Report has established the few basic rules, or not say rule, the criteria or the rule of thumbs of research ethics, which, for example, the respectful person basically also leads to the informed consent. The voluntary consent is necessary, and the beneficence, which invites the researchers to think about the between risk and benefits that are put on the human subjects, and basically saying the risk shouldn't be greater than the benefits. And also the selections of the subjects should be fair. Those are some of the basic principles here. However, earlier I was arguing these are some of the biomedical or driven on some biomedical experiments toward human being. But when it comes to social sciences, the things could be different. Of course, we wouldn't probably put or cause some of the physical damage to the participant, or let's say we have less possibility. I will not say totally impossible, but less possibility to cause any physical damage or harm to our participant. However, there could be some of the moments, such as including mental discomfort, or other kind of ethical dilemma that occurs in the research side. So, for example, if you are doing an interview, and what if the participants experience discomfort, or the interview question or their narration that we call the traumatized experience? What should you do here? And or you notice participants may need additional help, or even participants directly ask you for help if they are obviously have some financial difficulties, or you notice they need immediate medical help. So to which degree should you intervene or engage? Or whether should we engage or intervene? And here is another example that it's reported by Ellen. I have the citations here, which basically in this author's article, he reported a case where he used digital cameras for the study, and he lended the participant 10 cameras. Well, then lended out 10 cameras to different participants, and later only 9 came back. So with one lost camera, he had this conversation with the participant's parent whether or not they should pay for the camera, and the author also know that the participant is under a not so good financial situation. So in this case, whether or not, or how should we proceed these? These could be some of the ethical moments that involves or occurs suddenly in the field, but based on what we propose to the IRB, that how we or what kind of research activity we want to do, or the biomedical model, let's say. Of course, under all this situation, the voluntary consent has been obtained, but these moments still happen. So as a researcher, or let's say as a human being also, what should we react and what should we do? So here are some of the qualitative researcher things, and I also encourage you, if you are also interested in more of these discussion, to read some of the articles published in the methodology fields. We have different voices here, but here are just some few of the some thoughts starting here. So Gouin Gilliman talked about procedure ethics and also ethics in practice. Basically, procedure ethics, I consider it as IRB, which usually involves seeking approval from a relevant ethics committee to undertake research involving humans. While these defines IRB, the authors further move on to say, well, actually, we should engage in ethics in practice, which is actually the everyday ethical issue that arise in doing research, such as the examples I just provided in the previous slide. Those could be the moment, an unexpected moment that happened in the research site. So we react to those moments, and those moments are, again, unplanned and unforeseeable. So procedure ethics basically, basically is not sufficient for us to address these moments. What should we do? I think Caroline Alice provides a pretty nice ways of thinking. What should we start from here? Because of course, toward ethical thinking and toward this moral consideration, there is no right answer and single way to do so. People could, based on different contexts, different consideration, different relationship with your participants, would have made different decisions. But in general, we recognize and values the mutual respect and dignity and connections between the researchers and the research. And doing so, we also initiate and maintain the conversations with them. So that is said, even we encounter these moments, I still encourage you to, here are some of the ways where, for example, based on Caroline Alice's relational ethics, we could have a conversation with the participant of how to best address those moments. I really like this way of thinking because in such a, for this kind of practice, it is not a researcher single-sidedly to think for the participant. That means, oh, this is the way I think that is best for you. Instead, we try to engage into a dialogue and communication with the participant, and to think from their shoes, and also to listen to them of what they really need in such a moment and what might be the best way to address those moments. So even though, for example, the participant may request financial help from you, well, instead of directly reject, you could have a conversation and describing your position as a researcher and how you think about whether or not you should do this, and then try to initiate this conversation. Even though eventually you may reach the point where you decided to provide some help or even not, that is totally fine. And I think the process just engage in reaching a mutual understanding and make sure we reach a place where we both understand why we are making such ethical decision. So some of the practice, and because this is how to address this moment, is actually also a learning process. So I learned from some of the senior qualitative researcher, the way they starting to reach this point is by reading and by asking their colleagues, peers, or other scholars in the field, and also engage in practice, which I think some of the practice could be, like I say, have a conversation with the participant, or you could also try to engage in, for example, reflexivity, to consistently reflect on your research practice in the field and the moments where you interact with the participants. So that is to say, how to address the ethical issues is still, and it's an ongoing process, and it's a learning process. So even though you feels like, wow, you are facing the special situation, ethical moments by yourself, you are not alone. There, other qualitative researchers may experience the same. So thus, I encourage you to probably search for whether or not there are some of the article writing about this, or just ask and discuss with your colleagues, because different disciplines may react or have different decisions, standpoints differently. Anyway, so again, I hope this workshop serve us the starting point for you to engage into this continuous process, and hopefully, hopefully it's helpful you to into this topic, and I hope you all the best with your research project. Well, I'll see you next time. Bye for right now.